So my name's Harry Kalymnios, pronounced Kalymnios. It's a tricky one to pronounce. And I used to work not too far from here. I used to work at the London Stock Exchange near St Paul's in Moorgate. And I worked there for a number of years, and I was not like desperately passionate about it, but I didn't really hate it either. But it was just kind of in that in-between stage. And what I felt was that I needed a change. And then about 7 years ago, I left there, and I decided to really venture onto my own path, and I started getting down a bit of a rabbit hole when it came to health and well-being. And the more I learned, the more I realised that there was a lot to the world that I didn't really know. And I started going down that journey, and it led me to be really passionate about health, well-being, because I realised that without that I couldn't do anything else, especially because I ended up going and doing a bit of contracting work for a bit. And that meant that if anyone's been a contractor here before or a freelancer, if you don't go into work because you're ill, you don't get paid. Okay, you don't get sick pay. So it became really, really important for me to actually be healthy, and really the greatest wealth you have is your health. So for me, it was always the number one thing, and having the energy that I wanted to do everything I wanted to do, whether that was go to the gym before work, have a full day at work, learn how to do public speaking after work, and then writing my first book at the time. And so I wanted to do everything. And unfortunately, what I noticed when I was working and I was making all these changes, I felt really energised, I felt really good, but a lot of the people I see around London didn't feel so like the same. They're kind of living beyond what I think their potential could be, and because I know that because I was living beneath mine as well. And so some simple changes really that I put in helped me massively. And so now I like to coach, consult, and train other people on how to, what I call quote unquote, feel superhuman, which is have all that health, vitality and energy that you really need in order to exceed in life. So that's really a bit of background about me. And how this book came about is I've written it with a co-author actually, who I saw delivering at a health and wellbeing conference a little over a year ago, and I thought that we were on the similar wavelength, and we thought we would put something together. And I wanted to put something together which was really simple and accessible for the people that don't really read, okay? Because it's a really short book, as you can see. It's not very big, and you can get through it very quickly, but essentially it's got what I would say 5 key principles for health and well-being. Okay, Winston Churchill said that healthy citizens are the most valuable asset a country can have, and that was in 1943 when we were in the midst of a war in Europe. And because he recognised that, to win the war, we're going to need to have energised, healthy people. And unfortunately, those words really haven't, taken hold for a lot of people, because healthy citizens, you could say healthy employees, are the most valuable asset a company actually has. And if the company doesn't have healthy employees, it's not going to probably have healthy profits at the end of the day, at least not in the long term, or you're going to have to keep churning in new people because people get burnt out. So that's really the idea behind this book, is working well, is that it's for those, if it's for anyone that actually feels that they need a bit more health and vitality in their lives so they can operate at their best. And health, of course, is not merely the absence of disease, as the World Health Organization says. It is really having like mental, physical, emotional capabilities to exceed. It's not just the absence of disease or infirmary. With that being said, we are still in the midst of an epidemic here, and this is what drives me, is that at the moment we've got a third of people who are overweight, a third of people who are obese. So we've got 2/3 of the population overweight or obese. We've got 2/3 of the population who are going to either get heart disease, cancer, or diabetes. In fact, 70% of all non-communicable diseases fall into one of 4 categories of chronic lung disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and cancer. So, it's a huge amount, and we spend around over 180 billion in the NHS on healthcare. Okay, we lose around 70-odd billion from the economy through illness, 40 billion just from productivity as well. So we're losing a lot of money on the basis of ill health, or ill-being as it were. And so that's what really drives me. So we developed a framework, if you like, for health and well-being. I don't know if you're familiar with, anyone here heard the word sonar before? Yeah? Does anybody know what it stands for?
Sonic something.
It stands for sound and navigation ranging. Okay, so it's kind of like an underwater radar system. So it detects what goes on underneath the surface. Okay, like various underwater mammals and submarines use sonar to see what's going on. So we've developed a sonar, if you like, for the person to detect what's going on underneath them. Okay, sonar spelled S-O-N-A-R. Normally I have some visuals, but I'm sure you can remember 5 letters and the word sonar, right? So S-O-N-A-R. And conveniently they stand for 5 things that are important for health and well-being. They're by no means the be-all and end of everything, but these are the 5 key things that we looked at. So just so you've got an awareness of what these stand for, and we'll look at one in a little bit more detail. We've got S, that stands for sleep. Okay. O for oxygen, N for nutrition, A for activity, and R for rituals. So we've got sleep, oxygen, which is a metaphor for breathing, if you like, nutrition, which is all about your water and your food intake, activity, which is all around exercise but also movement, and then R for rituals, which is about the things that you do in a day, the habits that you form. Okay, so these are the 5 key things that we need to look for, and within the book each chapter is one of those elements, and we look at really practical ways that you can start implementing things. So if we look at well, one of the quotes that I remember is the most important thing in life is breathing, by Yoko Ono. And it really is very important for anyone that's ever had asthma or not been able to catch their breath and really felt like they couldn't breathe. You'll know that that's the time, that's the only thing that matters in life. It doesn't matter about your mortgage, it doesn't matter about the person that cut you up in traffic, it doesn't matter about the presentation you've got to do. So I like to focus in these talks on breathing, which is the O, oxygen part, that we look for, because it's really super key. Before I go any further, I think what we'll do is if we can stand up, so if you can stand up, all of you, okay, and we're going to just take a few breaths, and the way I want to do this is I want you to put one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest, if you would, okay, and you can keep your eyes open or you can close them. Sometimes it's nicer to close them just because you can helps you focus, but I want you just to take a deep breath in and out. Okay, another deep breath in and out. One more time as you take a deep breath in and let it out. Okay. By show of hands, hands up if you felt that your chest was rising there, or rising first. Okay. Yeah, a couple of people. Hands up if you think your belly was rising first. So we've got a couple of people, and maybe a couple of people that don't know which one was going, which is also perfectly natural as well. Take a seat. So for those of you that felt your chest rising first, you're not alone. Most people, when they take a breath in and they take a deep breath, they breathe in through the chest first. Okay, and if you ask someone to take a deep breath, they'll be like, and you'll see the chest rise, the shoulders rise, everything like that. And the challenge with that is that if you imagine, use your visualization here to imagine like a bird cage. Yeah, you can all imagine a bird cage, and imagine there's a balloon inside that bird cage. Now if you try and inflate that balloon to its full capacity within this small bird cage, at some point it's going to hit the sides, okay, the bars and the floor of the bird cage, and then it won't be able to go any further. Now our lungs are like that balloon, okay, they're inside their own bird cage, and that cage is your chest and your back and your ribs, okay, but unlike the bird cage metaphor that I'm using here, the floor of our bird cage is movable, okay, the diaphragm which sits underneath, okay, that contracts and relaxes and allows space to occur for that balloon, the lungs, to fully expand. And when you breathe into the chest, what you're doing is effectively fixing that birdcage floor, okay? And it means that you're not going to get the full lung capacity that you can do. Whereas when you breathe into the diaphragm, or what I like to call belly breathing, although obviously you're not breathing into the belly, but you're allowing the belly to expand, you allow that floor of that birdcage to come down and allow more lung capacity to be available to you. And when we focus on our breath, because our breath it's so key for reducing our blood pressure, reducing our heart rate, reducing stress and anxiety, boosting our immune system, and I could go on and on and on about all the benefits of breathing. But when we don't breathe correctly, what we do, more importantly, is activate what's called the sympathetic nervous system. When you breathe into the chest, the upper chest, you activate what's called the fight or flight response, which you, I'm sure, have heard of. And that's really going to put you in a, even if it's a mild state, a little state of stress. And when you start breathing into the belly, you actually start activating the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest part of your nervous system. So it immediately will start to relax you. And unfortunately, in today's society, we're sat at our desks, you're sat down now, and we automatically close in, and we actually restrict that. It's not to say you can't breathe into your belly sitting down, because you certainly can, as long as you position yourself well. But most people are sitting there, they're at their computer, they have an alert come through from their email, which is also going to create a minor stress, another alert on their phone, which also creates a minor stress, or even the anticipation of that. So you have these micro stresses, and we're not designed to have micro stresses continually throughout the day. We're designed to have a big stress when a tiger comes and attacks us for a bit, and then we rush off and we release what builds up, which is cortisol, builds up in our system. And we're supposed to release that through exercise or through deep breathing. And most people, they're desks, they're not going to go running off everywhere, but you can release that through deep breathing. And unfortunately, if you're sat there and you're hunched over, your arms are hunched over, you're going to be starting to breathe into the chest. You can start creating all of that stress inside of your body. So what we want to do is breathe in and out through the belly. And the other thing I would advise, and I didn't mention it there, is also breathing in and out through the nose. So a lot of people are mouth breathers. That, unfortunately, you know, while certain techniques within breathing and pranayama and all of these breathing techniques, they may breathe in through the mouth and out through the nose. There could be all sorts of, but day to day, just like moment to moment, what we should be doing is breathing in and out through the nose, because you've got 4 filters through your nose. You have no filters through your mouth. Okay, the mouth is for eating, speaking. Nose is for breathing. Okay, you also allow more oxygen, like a compressed airway of oxygen, which allows actually more oxygen uptake, okay, and like neutralizing bacteria that comes in, particles, all sorts of things that happen when you breathe in and out through your nose, as well as encouraging more likely belly breathing and therefore more likely parasympathetic nervous system response. So we want to take breaths throughout the day in and out through the belly. At certain moments of the day, when you recognize that you're maybe breathing, just notice, are you breathing in to your belly? Are you breathing in and out of your nose? And just take one conscious breath throughout the day. The other thing I would say is at certain points in the day, if you can maybe take 10 deep breaths, okay? I tend to do it like, certainly in the morning, and then maybe at lunchtime in the evening, so you can do it after the shower, before lunch, before dinner. I'd probably do it on an empty stomach. Just take a nice deep breath into the belly and out, either through the mouth or the nose, up to you. And what I do is in my shower, it's really, really steamy. So, and I'm all about, I love superheroes and I love making people feel superhuman. So I imagine when I'm in this steamy shower, I don't know if anyone watches, or obviously you've seen Superman, and he's got this Arctic breath where he breathes out all that, what seems like, you know, I don't know, whatever it is, steam or something. So when I'm in the shower, I'm taking these 10 deep breaths, and I clear my shower through just taking these breaths and breathing out. And for me, it's just a visual reminder, and I can see some progress because it clears the shower room. So yes, it might be a bit silly, but at the end of the day, we need to have these things integrated into our life and not extensions of our life. Otherwise, they become too problematic. Okay, so that is the O really from oxygen, for oxygen from the sonar. The other ones were, anyone remember what the other ones were? So S was? Sleep. O for oxygen. N for nutrition. A for activity. Yeah, action, activity. And R for rituals. Yes, rituals. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time in talking about it, because you can read all about it in the book. But I would love to take some questions if people have got questions. I love tricky questions. I love questions I may not be able to answer, and I'll do my best to. So please ask away. Yeah, take a seat. So rituals being the 5th letter of sonar, which is the framework for well-being. The interesting thing with rituals and how they differ from routine. Okay, so we all have routines, yeah? We brush our teeth, we tie our shoelaces, we maybe go and buy our mint chocolate latte from wherever it is, Starbucks. So these are like routines that many people get into. The difference I see between the two is the intention behind it. Okay, so when we have a ritual, it's like, what is the intention behind the thing that we're doing? So I can still be brushing my teeth, for example, which is the routine. But as I'm brushing my teeth, I might spend those 2 minutes brushing my teeth thinking of all the things that I'm grateful for in life. So then that creates a ritual around brushing my teeth. And I have certain rituals. What I noticed when I did a lot of studying of high-performing individuals is that they had certain commonalities, and I took a lot of those commonalities into my own life and my own frameworks. And one of the things was always about morning routines. So one of the things I used to do, my morning routine, like many other people, was like, alarm clock goes on, snooze it a couple of times, maybe crash out of bed, have a shower, maybe a bit of breakfast out the door, have breakfast at first thing in the morning, like warm water and then lemon water. I'm always jumping on my rebounder, so every morning I jump on my rebounder for 15 minutes. More often than not, I'll do like 15 minutes of meditation. It's now become quite big, so it ends up being 3 hours sometimes if I want to do everything, or it could be as small as 15 minutes. It just depends on what you've got and how you adapt to it. So that's an example of a ritual. Okay, so the thing is, in our day, there's very little we can control, okay? But we can control usually how we start the day and how we end the day. So I always suggest to people to bookend your day with certain rituals. So just like there's a morning ritual to help you get up and go for the day, so we don't leave it to chance, there's also an evening ritual. So in terms of the absolute last thing I'm doing before I go to bed, it's meditation, usually. But there is a routine or ritual in the evening of shutting down lights, a couple of hours beforehand, making sure I don't get any blue light into my eyes, shutting down devices from 9 o'clock usually if I'm on a good day. Like, it's not every day, but like maybe 8 days out of 10, shutting devices down at 9. I have something I've been practicing for about 7-8 years, which I recommend to everyone. I've been writing like a gratitude journal every night for the last 7 years of 3 things I'm grateful for. So that would be one of the last things. It would be the gratitude log, turn the light right off, and then do some meditation. So that would be the last thing. But certainly it's not what most people do, which is looking at their phone, looking at the time, anything like that. Yeah. Thank you. Great question. Yeah. Any other questions? Being mindset resilience coach, trainer and speaker who helps organisations and individuals optimise themselves mentally, physically, emotionally and spiritually so they can... Thought stewardship is your... Sorry? Thought stewardship. So so mindset really first, because the thing is, and the first book that I wrote was called The Thought Gym, because it was all about how you change your mindset to enable change. Because what I noticed is that, you might have had this experience, or you might know other people that have got this experience, where you join a gym in January, by February you've given up. You join that new diet plan, 6 weeks later it goes off. And the thing is that people are always trying to change behaviours before they change the mindset that drives the behaviours in the first place. And so what drives our behaviours is our beliefs and our values about life, our identity about who we see ourselves. If we see ourselves as someone who's always a yo-yo dieter, we're always going to end up being a yo-yo dieter. If we see ourselves as being a smoker who just hasn't smoked for 3 years, this could be more tempting when we get a bit drunk or we're in a big environment or we get stressed to pick up that cigarette again. So how do we shift that identity? So that first book was all about identity shift and mindset shift. And my whole brand is called The Thought Gym, because it was always about training the mind so the rest will follow, because until you change the mindset, it's very difficult to keep change elsewhere. Absolutely. That happened for myself. Yeah. So this is the thing I was talking about, the gratitude stuff, right? Yeah. Is that the quickest way to change your mindset, I think, and that's why I tell all my clients to do this, is to start for 30 days, just do it for 30 days, that's all I did, and then 7 years later still doing it. But it makes you seek out the positive in the world, because the thing is, at the end of the day, there's a lot of negative in the world, but there's even more positive. But we're designed, evolutionary speaking, to seek out the negative, because we want to see if that twig is out of place. We want to see if that footprint's there. We want to see if our cave looks slightly different, right? So we're designed to seek out the negative. When we go to school as well, we get 7 out of 10 correct on our maths test, and we're drawn attention to the 3 crosses that tell us that we didn't do very well. So we're designed to see that. The newspapers feed on that. So if you watch the news and you read newspapers, you're drawn into that. No one wants to hear about the positive stuff. But if you were to put a news program of what actually happens in the world, a 30-minute news program, 29.9 minutes or whatever would be positive and the rest would be negative. And so, yeah, it's kind of like fake it till you make it, but really, or fake it till you become it. But it's not even really faking it, because, like I say, it's not that the positive doesn't exist. The positive does exist, just as the negative does. But whatever you look for, you're going to find.
From the back to the front, basically.
Yeah, you're going to find it. So whatever you seek, you'll find at the end of the day. Yeah, absolutely. But great question, thank you. Everything throws like
a
major one in your life. There's 4 words that I use like on a daily basis when things like that happen. I've had stuff happen, a few years ago. I had a bust up knee, came back from this holiday. I'd spent all this money to do this training. I came back into my flat, bust knee for like what ended up being a few months. As soon as I walk in the door, girlfriend of 4 years breaks up with me. All these things crazy happen, right? And so, no job, whatever it is. There's 4 words that I use, and they might not mean that much to you, although you'll get them intellectually. Before I explain it, it's just the understanding that really everything in life and in the universe is transient. Okay? By that, everything passes. So the 4 words I always say to myself are, this too shall pass. Okay? So anything you're going through, good times or bad times, so when you're having good times, they're not going to last as well. Okay? Because life is like the seasons, spring, summer, autumn, winter. They come and they go, time after time. So when you've got the good times, enjoy them, because they're not going to last. When you've got the bad times, recognize that they're not going to last as well. Nothing lasts forever. Okay, not even the universe will last forever. And just having that understanding, but just not intellectually, but just experientially, which is like if anyone's done, like, say, Vipassana meditation, that was my great teacher. It's like a 10-day meditation retreat where you have to sit with yourself for like 12 hours a day for 10 days, and you can't move for like at least 3 of those hours at 1 hour increments. And that really taught me the idea of transient nature of life. You sit there, within about a second of sitting there, you get a really itchy nose and you can't scratch it, and you just sit and you observe it, and you say, and then after a while it goes. And that, to be honest, really gets me through, just knowing that not everything lasts. Obviously some other practices like taking a breath determine what can you control and what can't you control in a situation, because most things in life you can't control. Okay, the only thing you can really control is your response to something. Okay, the actions that you take, the way that you think, that's what you can control. So maybe you have this obstacle, but what I notice with successful people is where most people will see an obstacle, they will see an opportunity, and nothing has any meaning other than the meaning you give it. So if you see this thing as being like, oh my God, I've just been fired from this job of 15 years, it's totally devastating. Or you could choose the meaning as being something else. Actually, I needed a kick up the bum to do it. Yeah, I don't know if that helps. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? I've gone through different phases. So when I first started, actually, all I did was about 20 seconds. Okay, started really small, just counting my breath, going in and out, and just thinking in 1, out 2, in 3, out 4, up to about 10 and 20 over time. So first couple of years I was doing something similar where I was just doing the count. Then Vipassana is slightly different, which I don't really practice other than when I did it there, which is more like sensations, like noticing sensations on the body. What I tend to do is in the morning I tend to follow, I've been into the last year or so Esther Hicks's stuff. So she's got good stuff like the Vortex ones, which I really like, and she's got a really nice count of 4, and I just count as she's talking, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's kind of like a bit of a mantra based one. And then in the evening I will either do it silently or I'll have some other meditation music, and I normally just go inhale and say the word re, and outhale say the word lease.
Last question.
In my head, yeah.